We started this community at third place with a very clear objective of increasing people's ambition to create world class products. I don't know, I'm always shocked at how we are the Mao and Dao factory of the world, but we still don't have any app in the top 10 on the App Store. That is the objective. All the folks here are product folks who hopefully will leave this room having a slightly bigger ambition than they entered here. That's the objective of the community. Super inspiring story. So I wanted to do this fireside chat and maybe start by first talking a little bit about the cult journey. What I find most interesting about the cult journey is it actually started with an acquisition. It's a very different way of doing an MVP and a product market fit. So maybe tell us, we'll start there and then I have a few other questions.
So first of all, welcome to Curefit. Hope you guys are having a good session overall. See this, since most of you are product folks, so you will know that product market fit is very difficult. For all the people who start out trying to build something new, a new product, a new company, large majority of them do not cross the product market fit bar. It's hard. It's also a function of a lot of different things: external environment, other players, who gets what funding, and so on. How does your initial team end up being like? So the idea of this, I think people are starting to use this phrase now, buying product market fit. And if you think about it, it's not new. If think about all the major successes that Google or Facebook has had in last 15 years, almost all of them have come through acquisition. Like today, probably two-thirds of Facebook market cap is because of WhatsApp and Instagram. It's all acquisition product. Same Android and YouTube, all acquisitions at Google. So I think the idea of when we were starting Curefit, we had a pretty ambitious vision at the time to really try to solve health holistically. And health holistically mean you have to take care of fitness, food, mental health, and so on. And there was no way we could have built so many things from scratch. So we actually, and as a second time entrepreneur, we had access to capital, etc. So we scanned the market systematically and try to find starting seed for actually each of those. So all those three things started as an acquisition. Cult in the end worked out really well. We acquired a kitchen for Eat.fit. We also acquired Dr. Shambert's company Serenity for MindFit. So it was a way to short circuit that 2-3 years of hard work, and which may still not yield a proper product market fit.
Like you said, second time entrepreneur access to capital really helps. But I feel it's not, there are lots of companies that have tried to go the route of acquisition, but it doesn't always end up well because of the integration, the culture, the same value system, obsession. How did you ensure that? And I think one thing that for me at least stands out about Cult, Cure, everything that I've sort of touched in this gamut is just customer obsession. I was just telling somebody my love for uh, group classes changed because of Cult. My understanding of group classes was very different before Cult. I still remember that time when I walked into the gym and into a Cult fit, and at the end of the class, how the trainer brought everybody together, and then they all kind of put their hand in and said, "We are Cult." And I almost felt obligated to come back to the next class because I just announced that I'm part of that cult. So how does this obsession flow and how do you ensure that?
Yeah. So first part of your question, in acquisition, see if you're acquiring some company, somewhere you are acknowledging that this team and this product does something what better than we do. So you have to kind of uphold the spirit after acquisition. If you suddenly change gear and you start telling that team how to function, what to do, what to fix, then you might as well have done it yourself. So I think that creating their autonomy is very important. Myntra also benefited when Flipkart acquired it. By and large, left their team alone for next 5-6 years, which allowed Myntra to just continue to thrive and keep evolving in their journey without feeling overburdened by Flipkart in any way. So I think that's creating their autonomy is very important if you are going to do grow through acquisition. Since we're talking about products and startups, I'll probably just keep saying everything is hard, including building customer obsession scale. From outside, it may appear to be certain way, but I think if you really want to ensure customer obsession, the real area to work on is culture. The culture is the most powerful thing. It's again very, very difficult to build. Just yesterday, I was at Grow. I don't know if any product manager from Grow here or not, but you know, one of the things we ended up talking there is building that culture from early on in the organization. Once you build it right, then it's self-replicating. But if you don't have it, building it later also becomes very difficult. So how does culture happen, right? It's I think founders and leadership team are very important. Like ultimately people will know what you care about, what you not care about, and just paying lip service to things will not matter. So it's like if you are leading an organization and you want to build a culture of customer obsession, you ask yourself, are you obsessed about customer? If you're not, people around you will see that you're not. At some point you have to translate it into policies and rituals. Like for this VR cult, became a very visible manifestation of that. But I think in our first 3 4 years, lot of what we were doing in the organization was very much driven by customer. There was a lot of people from the Curefit office who will work out in the gyms regularly. We will do field visits quite often, interact with their trainers, center managers. During pandemic time, I think all these things have taken a bit of a hit, and we have grown too much. We are currently struggling with trying to, in some ways, revive going back to our roots. But yeah, I think just caring and then design, across our policies and and rituals is probably one way to make sure that it can stay with you for long term.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I think fitness, at Upraised, we do education. And I think they both suffer from the same problem of if you ask anybody, do you want a better job? Nobody says no. If you ask the same people, do you want to upskill yourself to get that better job? I'll try to do this. Same with fitness. You ask somebody, you want a six pack, of course. But what do you want to do on Saturday night? Of course, you want to Netflix and chill. So how do you build habits and how do you build rituals so that those habits continue? What are your thoughts on that?
So one more time, building habits is very hard. So uh, any of you in the last 1 year, how many people have made any fundamental habit changes? Okay, so about one third of the room, right? And I'm assuming for the rest 2/3 of the room also probably wanted to make some habit change. uh, but it's really difficult. I think by now I'm guessing all of you guys would have read Atomic Habits and Power Habit and all of that, right? For all of us, habit change is very hard. So as a brand, if you're building something, first of all, don't build anything which requires habit change. Otherwise your life will be very difficult. But if you do, then you have to really design for it. Santosh is somewhere here. Even today, how do we build a fitness habit is a big strategic priority for us. It's like one of the top three initiatives in the product, and we realize that it's going to take us many years to really solve at scale. In the earlier days, I think it was solved because we were able to get a lot of early adopters.
Right.
We also,
Yeah.
the group class itself is bit of habit forming because it's social. You end up having mutual accountability. You are going with somebody from office too for these group classes, and so on. So there were, I don't think all of it was necessarily by design, but we had features which were conducive to habit forming from day one. But now how to do it scale, and we have bunch of things that can be done in the product, but it's like that cue action reward loop, figuring out a way to make it happen every day. For us, there is an opportunity for reward at the end of class. People do feel a natural high, so there's a little bit of that reinforcement that is happening. But then there are other derailers happen in people's life, and bringing them back is very difficult. Uh, so yeah, I think it's a recognizing what is the habit loop. How will the first those 8 to 12 weeks are going to be very difficult, and that's where if your product requires habit building, you're going to lose most of people on that. So really actively designing for it, doing everything, all the product tools in terms of continuous testing, optimizing, iterating, paying a lot of, some people will form the habit, and that's where a lot of insights will come from. So even if 5% of people end up forming habit, they're trying to do exactly what were the triggers for those people, and trying to replicate those for other people can give you some cues.
So, how did you go about discovering those loops and those moments? Was it because of dog fooding in the office? Like, where do you gather these insights? Because most of your insights are for people working out in the gym, right?
The insights,
versus
yeah,
PMs are sitting here and designing the product?
insights I think always come from just one source: spending time with customers. So you have to go where the customers are. You have to observe. I think from what I'm recalling in the, even from early days of Cult, people used to tell us universally that at the end of the class they feel this high, and that was just recognizing that, and hearing it again and again from people was a very good realization. And that's, that happened with any workout. I mean, those of you ever tried running, what people call runner's high. You go run, have a 2 kilometer or 5 kilometer run, so that endorphin release is real. We had the culture of continuous interaction with the customers, and some of the obvious things what they really like. They liked the if the trainers was highly energetic, then the class experience goes up. We observe that, what I mentioned, that people are coming in the groups or a colleague, then they will stay in the system a lot longer. And then you try to enhance in your communication, product design, those insights.
Were there some counterintuitive insights along the way that you were surprised about?
Cult, I'll have to think about counterintuitive, but one of the biggest counterintuitive insight, I mentioned many times. So my in my Myntra days, so in e-commerce, return is always a huge problem, especially for fashion. And we had this problem statement of what can we do to reduce returns. And at some point, someone did an analysis and realized that when people who have done returns, their ARPU is something like 4 to 5 times bigger. And then we started thinking about looking into it. We realized that when someone has a first successful return, their trust on the brand goes up dramatically. And then we changed the metric from reducing returns to inducing successful returns. And how many people in the system have a successful return? And that led to a dramatic increase in ARPU. So that's really one kind of counterintuitive insight.
Got it. As you've gone through this journey, and as Cult has evolved, today it's beyond gyms, right? It does few more things. So, what is sort of the larger mission, vision? You often talk about living a active, healthy lifestyle. Like it has so many dimensions. How do you get people excited to do that?
Yeah, so I think we have defined our mission as active lifestyle for everyone. If 10 years from now, we want, first of all, we would like everybody in India to be active, and we would like to play whatever role we can. And for us, activity is not only gym. I think people who even if go for 10,000 steps in a day, or cycle, or run, or any sports, or go to gym. So we want to enable all of that. So I think our vision has evolved. Before pandemic, we were trying to build a platform across all aspects of healthy lifestyle. I think we realized that there are different businesses and require very different skill sets. So we've kind of limited in some ways focused on our vision on active lifestyle. But within active lifestyle, we want to support pretty much everything that people can do, because any one format of activity also becomes boring. People have different stages of life, different time commitments, and so on. So whatever type of activity appeals to anyone, we want to be enabler of that, including things like hike, etc. in future.
Do you get FOMO sleeping at 9 p.m.? Like life is happening outside.
I don't get any FOMO. I think a couple of years ago, I learned this new phrase, JOMO, joy of missing out. And I've talked about that in my podcast also. Yeah, I think FOMO is not going to lead anyone anywhere. I think there are so many choices out there, and they're only growing. I think if we are going to be FOMO driven, we are just like headless chicken, chasing way too many things, not have enough time for anything. So I think if you're serious about health, you'll have to make some trade-offs. Health is expensive in terms of time. I don't think there is, you can have good health without time commitment. At this point, I am very strong believer that for the most important thing for good health is sleeping 7 to 8 hours. And if you think it's too much, I think what it pays back in terms of focus, productivity, and all, I think it's just no brainer investment. And then movement. I think you don't need to necessarily go to gym, but any type of movement. Mental health, I think, is more important than food. I think most of us, I think, if you guys want to do one experiment, just go to your phone and you have the screen time, and just I'm going to just, like, basically in iPhone, you just right swipe and you can see your screen time. Most people are between 4 hours to 10 hours, and just insane amount of time on your phone. And that means, your attention is continuously divided, uh, very, this fragmented focus, and all this will not translate into high quality of work. And also it'll affect, you're consuming a lot of content, social media, all of this emotional roller coaster throughout the day. So I think paying attention to mental health. And finally, on food, I think food, there is really, keeping it simple is probably best advice. Eat as much home food as possible. If possible, just eat 3 meals a day. I now eat only 2 meals a day, but yeah, something like that. That these 3 4 things will pretty much take care of 90% of things. Or you can read my book, Hacking Health.
I have a question for I want the answer to this more than anybody else. I don't know about that, but uh, if you want to have a larger ambition of building a world class product early in your career, what are things you should do? Mm.
You should not have the ambition of building a world class product. You should try to find a unique insight and a very micro problem to solve, and then at least attempt to solve it better than anyone else. The sharper, the better. I think, the whole Peter Thiel's 0 to 1, he talks about dominant niche. I think that's the only way to start a new product. It just, you're not going to start with a $50 million of funding and 50% engineering team. So you can't, think world class. It's just by doing one thing so well. Flipkart did only one thing well in the early days. They cracked SEO for books. Now today, where is SEO for Flipkart and where are books for Flipkart? Nowhere, right? But by doing that one thing right, they got initial foot in the door, they got a lot of attention, and then using that you build the next thing and next thing. But that attitude of, even if they said they are going to be so good in SEO that they're going to pretty much corner all Google traffic for books for them. So that builds a culture of really obsessing about creating that massive delta, and that spirit will stay with you, and you can apply to a lot of things. I think you'll have to pay your dues over 10 years to be able to, aim for world class. Today Ola is able to do electric vehicles, which, I would like to believe, both Ola and Ather two wheelers is probably globally competitive. There's not like, other global players have better EVs, but both, Ola has a 15-year history. Similarly, Ather also has 7 8 year history. So you have to, I think, work your way towards by notching one win at a time, building expertise, building skill set, and building profitable niches where you can dominate, where you can keep plowing back that cash flow. And then, in your second decade, you can legitimately dream of building world class stuff.
When I talk in decades to most folks, they tend to zone out. I'm I've obviously lived for decades, so I can talk for decades. But most of them like think about their career. They think about their work in 1 or 2 and 3 years, and
But
that's always been my biggest feedback, which is it's
no, but I think there is no choice. Let's take, I mean, just maybe people in the front, like when do you think Zomato was founded? Which year?
this is going to be a great exercise.
2007, right? And they pivoted into food delivery in 2018. So 11 years after starting the company, they pivoted to food delivery. Today, if you look at, their market cap and feel jealous, but where is your 11 years of trying to build something?
That's right.
Paytm was started in 2005. uh, Ola, 2010. There are almost no companies in India or even outside that go public in their first 10 years. So I think not other stat for almost all companies, 90% of them, their eventual market cap is created in the second decade of existence. So I think if you are not able to think in terms of decades, you're just deluding yourself. That's just reality. That just analyze as many companies you want, and you will see this pattern. Today, a lot of these so-called AI companies are very hot. But if you go back any company, when you say this AI company is 50 million, $100 million, which year they was founded? 2013, 2014,
That's right.
2015. They were just toiling in obscurity when no one was thinking about AI. And finally, after 5 6 years of work, they had the product, they had the credibility, and now AI is hot and everyone is chasing them. So I think if you want to do something meaningful, you have no choice, but you have to think in terms of decades.
That's a great way to summarize this. Mukesh is not so well, so I'm not going to try to hold him back, but we'll open up for a few questions and
Sure.
then we'll kind of wrap up.
Thank you so much for the great session. I just had one question, mostly focused towards the dilemma that a lot of product managers and also early age founders face, which is when they start questioning their own thoughts. Like, what if I am not good enough, or what if the idea that I'm working on is not good enough? So, what kind of advice would you have for those people who are facing this dilemma?
I think some of those dilemma is good. At some point, I'm see the area that you have started, you would do your homework, and after some time, you should at least have deep conviction. Some things that will not change. Jeff Bezos talk about it, and what will not change is 10 years. There's a really good book, Morgan House's second book, same as ever. So at some point, you need to like, what do you really believe in? And for that, you will not have self doubt, because that will give your anchor. For example, in 2016, when we started Curefit, I believe that the adoption of fitness will keep growing in the country for a long period of time, and that has not changed. That will not change for next 10 years. So I cannot have doubt about the fitness market, because I have a strong belief. And there are other things that you may have doubt, that's fine. And then people around you, the quality of conversation you're having, but somewhere just being in touch with your deep conviction. I think all people, all startups and people build products, it cannot be built only based on analytical analysis. It's you have to develop some convictions and stay true to your convictions, and you may still fail. But creating that, finding something that you really literally believe in and willing to live and die by, that is a necessary ingredient.
Thank you.
To probably get to where you are, you had to deal with a lot of people, talk. You'd have to deal with a lot of people. You'd have to influence a lot of people to get them on this journey with you. So I believe that is where I personally struggle a bit, in that aspect of influencing to people, talking to people, and taking them along in a shared vision. So what have you found in your years of experience? What are the essential qualities to carry that conversation with someone, whether it's leadership, whether it's a colleague? How do you influence and how do you bring them along on this
uh,
vision?
I miss your first part. This is in the context of recruiting people for a startup, or you already people have working with you, or to take them along with you?
Yes, your closest stakeholders, for example, when we are building products, we have senior leadership, we have design engineering. But I'm talking about more of the senior levels of leadership, in terms of getting the senior folks by your vision and leading them. Like,
So he's already working somewhere and he's trying to get leadership excited about some of the initiatives that he wants to work on.
I think just to, this is in the context you're asking. One is, as a CEO or founder, how do you take your people along with you? Okay.
yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I think it should not be difficult, in my opinion, because if the people are already there, they must have come in, first of all, believing in you. Like, why are they in the first place? So during recruitment time, people would have spent a lot of time. They hopefully bought into the long term vision of the organization. And then the kind of dialogue you have on an ongoing basis, things evolve in a startup. And I've seen it's much easier to take people along if you have a continuous transparent dialogue. So on day one, let's assume people came in only because they believed in your vision, otherwise they wouldn't have joined. And if after 2 years different, why? Because something would have changed. But as things are changing, if people feel they are also participating in the dialogue, they are able to follow along your thought process, they're also able to challenge you, sometimes they are able to influence you as well, then it's a lot easier to, I think this, it just boils down to transparency and honest dialogue and very healthy give and take.
Thank you, Mukesh. Uh, I have a question. I am from mechanical engineering background, probably only one in the room. So my question is, how do people like me who are not from software or computer field, they want, if they have business ideas which are into service or software, UI and all, how do we engage and create a business case and then connect with the right people?
I think there are, I mean, now we have entrepreneurs from all backgrounds. So I think being from mechanical engineering or even a non-engineering background, I don't think it's a big handicap. See, it's a building a good product requires at least 5 6 people, as long as you have enough complementary skill set with the other people. If you are personally not, see, more if you're going to founder of a company, you need to be product manager. That's almost a given. Initially you can't outsource. So, and pretty much anyone, I think, with the you know just common sense and willing to spend a lot of time with customers, and some systems thinking approach, where you would abstract out what you observe day to day, so you can play the product role while someone else can do the engineering. You can play the sales roles if you're very naturally good in communication, building relationship, which again a lot of founders need to do. So I think it's just a matter of knowing what you are good at and being able to assemble a team who can bring everything else. And it applies even if you are a CS person, then you need somebody else for do other things which are equally important. So yeah, I think just well-rounded team where you are one part of the team and everyone else is complementary skills is the way to go.
Hi Mukesh, thanks for the session. Coming back to the concept of customer obsession, and as somebody who's probably joining a new company, I don't think anyone would ever say don't be obsessed with your customers, right? It's a kind of a no-brainer. But sometimes when you come into places, like you see people's calendars, and that kind of shows you what people's priorities are and where they're spending their time. Um, so what I'm trying to come to is, how do you come into an organization, and what are examples of people that have come into some of your organizations and kind of driven some kind of culture change? Of course, you drove it down from the top, being obsessed with customers, but then are there examples that you've noticed of people coming and driving a culture of obsession?
I think it just boils down to this whole thing of what gets measured gets managed. So it's okay to pay. People may pay lip service to customer obsession, but if you say like where is the starting with again CEO onwards, where is the time attention going? Most startups, I guess, you will work 50 or 60 hours a week. Just ask yourself how much time CEO, senior leadership team, what percentage of their time goes into uh, activities which directly demonstrates customer obsession, whether it's field on ground, reviewing metrics, discussing customer escalations. At Flipkart, when I joined, I was quite shocked to see, Sachin used to have this customer escalation forum where every week he'll have 1 hour meeting with whatever escalation of the week, and he'll go through RC of those. So that shows you that the culture there is going to be very obsessed about customers. So just look at what metrics people are paying attention to, and where is the attention span, and that will tell you whether they have customer obsession or not.
Yeah, actually, dog fooding is a very clear one. At least at Airbnb, one of the first things when I joined there, I joined when the company was less than 30 people. Uh, the first thing I was supposed and required to do is just attend customer service calls for a week to just understand what people love about the product, what they don't love about the product, what are they complaining about. And Brian used to sit on those customer calls for 1 hour every week till I think we were 500 people. uh, I think even at Airbnb, we used to get a $300 coupon every quarter to go live in an Airbnb. Uh, Especially, and that coupon was only valid to live in Airbnbs that had no reviews. So that was a way to kickstart reviews, but it actually was helping us realize the most important critical moment of the journey, which is that moment of truth when you open a door that you have never reviewed, and what needs to change in the product experience so that people can build trust in the system. I think for me, that was a very transformational experience. I noticed when I was coming up the Cult's office, when I was just telling somebody that I drive by this road every single day. My office just around the corner. I thought this was a Cult gym, because from the outside it literally looks like a gym. And then when I walked in today, I was like, "Am I at the office? Am I at the gym?" Because when I walked in, I just saw dumbbells and a bunch of stuff. And then when I was walking up, I saw that there were pull-up bars from like the start of the one end of the office room to the other end. And I think that also is, kind of these little things drive focus back to what is the purpose. I imagine everybody working at Cult is quite fitness obsessed.
I
There's
hope
probably
so.
some.
I think one of our core values is nurture your body and mind. We have a initiative Fit, where actively everyone encouraged to participate in sports and so on. And yeah, I think one of the perk of joining Cult is most people lose weight in for 6 months. So
And then what happens after 6?
it stays that way, yeah,
Okay, great. Awesome.
until they leave.
Until they leave. That's right. No, when I walked in the first conference room, I saw was kettlebell. And I was like, wow, okay, if I got reminded of this 10 times a day, maybe I'll actually have this thought in the back of my mind to actually pick one up. But one last question, Mukesh, and then we'll end the session.
Jatin, this side, I'm a product manager at Zeta. So I have two questions. So first is, if you were to hypothetically build your third startup, how would you think about what problem to solve and the co-founder and founding team, etc.? And the second question is, what's your advice to first-time people managers who are product managers, typically who move from SPM to GPM, who need to manage junior PMs and also look at the charter as well?
Yes, first of all, it's not hypothetical that my third startup, but it's too early to talk about it. So, but what I will look at, I will really try to think slightly long term. Whenever like who is considering.
Mukesh, we just discussed decades. They can't think beyond decades now.
No, no, no. I think by this time, by long term, I mean more like something which is going to be here at least 3 to 5 years, because that'll take at least that long to build your product, product market fit. So right now, I'm looking at what are the given trends for next 10 years. One of them is, I do believe AI is going to fundamentally transform pretty much everything we do. So just like internet and mobile phones and social media is like that big of a trend. So that's one thing I'll focus on. If when you're moving from IC role to a manager role, I think initially one should make the transition slowly. Like if your product manager now become as senior product manager, you'll have a small team of 2 3. So at that time you should still think your 80% of your role should be IC role, and only 20% people management. That for 2 or 3 people, you don't really need to manage much. And there also I'll focus more on domain skills first. So if somebody is reporting to you, can you make that person produce at a better quality output? So reviewing the specs, doing workshop together, and showing a better path, I think will, yeah, that's just focusing on that. So learn the people management aspect slowly, and while continue to hold on and maintain, especially product manager role. I think even much later also should, even very VP of product also should be reasonably hands on.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I often see first time managers trip into is mis understanding management as power and overusing that and kind of tripping into it time and again. I don't think it's a good use of your time or a good use of your time to manage somebody, because it just builds a very wrong relationship. Last question: what is one principle you live by every day?
I think whatever you do, just do with just lot of passion and conviction. I think that just the quality of input as well as quality of engagement and enjoyment just goes up, quite dramatically.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mukesh. Thank you for taking your Saturday evening to spend with us.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the conversation.